The Breaux Show is filmed before absolutely no audience whatsoever.
Good evening. Are you ready? It's time for the hype of the night, The Breaux Show.
Hello and welcome to Coffee Break with Denise Chambers.
Good morning and welcome to Coffee Break. I'm Michael Breaux and with me is Gary Shelton. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing pretty good on this Friday, man. Doing well.
A little chilly this morning, though.
Yeah, but we made it through February. Today is the first day of March.
Yeah, that extra day kind of threw some of us off. I know that.
And I'm ready for the weekend, actually.
Well, with us today, our guest is Chris Zapeda. Did I say that right?
That's right.
I want to make sure I said that right. And he's the manager of Excalibur Comics, cards, and games. Is that the full name of it?
That's the full name. That's all the words we could get in.
All the words you could get in?
Don't get on the marquee.
That's right.
And I just want to know, first off, what gave you the idea to open up a comic store
Well,
in general?
I'd always collected comics since I was, before I could read, and so that was always something I was interested in. That was one of the things my father, one of the sticks he used to make me read was he was going to stop buying comic books for me if my grades didn't improve. So that's something I've always been interested in, and just the opportunities worked out where things came together where it could happen like that.
What was the first comic you ever read or bought?
One of the first ones I remember is Captain America 100, which was the first full-length book that he had since the World War II. And he was always my favorite character, and so that's one that's always stuck in my mind. So that's probably about the first one. I was about 6.
I'm trying to think. To me, my favorite artist would have to be Jack Kirby, or Kirby. I can't think of his first name.
Yeah, Jack Kirby.
Because of his style. Who's yours, or is there like a consensus among other collectors as who's the
I would have to say, as far as my favorite, it would be Kirby. He created Captain America. He created most of the Marvel heroes: Fantastic Four, Thor, Hulk, Silver Surfer. He actually did the original art for Spider-Man, the X-Men. He was just a prolific guy from the 40s on up through, till he died just a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that, and I was reading about that, and it was sad to hear about that, but his legacy lives.
Oh, yeah, that's, his characters are known worldwide.
Right. Well, this is something that to comic collectors a lot of people don't know about, and I was just wondering if you could explain. I see you brought a few with you today. The differences in comics, like I know about near mint and mint in good condition, but if I'll hold these up, and if you'll just tell our viewers out there what the different styles are.
In comic collecting, like collecting of anything, baseball cards, vintage cars, anything, the number one concern is condition, and the condition pretty much dictates the value of a comic. This comic is Amazing Fantasy 15, which was the first appearance of Spider-Man, which in mint condition is worth over $22,000. Like that, with no cover and kind of tattered and yellowed like that, that's more like a $500 copy. So it's like a $20,000 difference in value just on the condition. Other things that impact on are if they're first appearances, if they're significant events like the death of Superman or something like that. That'll drive up price.
But he didn't die, though. To me, that wasn't significant because they kept on going with the comic. I knew he was coming back.
Well, it's just like it's like Dallas or any other soap opera. They're going to kill him off and bring him back and kill him off.
And they shot JR. Everybody thought he was dead.
Yeah, that's not anything new. That's going to happen. He'll die again. I can almost guarantee it.
One question I want to ask you is, what? Oh, I don't want to bend this.
No, don't worry about
What difference do you see in the production aspects of the comic books from years past to the comic books of today?
Well, as far as just the paper and things like that, they use a lot higher grade, higher quality stuff. And also these days, like when Kirby was doing stuff, when they were doing Spider-Man back in the early 60s, the companies owned everything and the artists just worked for them. These days, a lot more of the artists and the writers create their own things and own all the rights to it, so that somebody like Todd McFarlane that does Spawn, he owns the rights to Spawn, and so if they do Spawn toys, he makes money off of that, and he, instead of just a company.
The action figures and all that?
Yeah, all the action figures and things like that.
You think he'll get a percentage off of every action figure made?
Yeah, well, in fact, he was able to write his own ticket. He owns the company that makes the toys, so
so he's making a killing.
Right, he owns part of the company that puts out his comics, but he owns all the licensing and everything on his toys. So a lot of these guys come up now and they work for DC or they work for Marvel, and they work on Superman for a couple of years and get a fan base, and then they'll break off and do stuff on their own.
You're talking about Marvel and DC. I know there's a lot of different comic companies out there. Which ones are breaking through now? I know there's a lot of new ones like Image and the Amalgam Comics. We were talking about those earlier.
Right.
What is that exactly?
Well, that was a kind of a joint venture thing that Marvel and DC did. They, I brought some of those with me there too. That's all of them. They came out this week. They had done a big crossover where they had their characters, you know, like the Hulk fighting Superman and Batman fighting Captain America and things like that. So they did these comics that were like a mixture of their characters and the DC characters. So you've got somebody like Spider-Boy who's part Spider-Man and part Superboy, and there's another one there that was a super soldier that's part Captain America and part Superman. They kind of mixed their stories to come up with one character. Right. So they took some of the more popular characters and kind of made an amalgam of them, a mixture of them to.
There's one in particular that I want to see personally. I'm going to try and dig through here real quick.
That's probably it there.
Yeah, that's it right there. This is the one that I'm personally going to probably go and buy today myself.
Yeah, he's like part Wolverine from the X-Men and part Batman. So they call him Dark Claw. So and they just came out this week, but they've been pretty popular. They're all just one-shots right now, but I think if they go over well, there's a good possibility they'll do more. Right.
Are they selling like really fast off the shelves, or?
Yeah, people are pretty excited about them, and they have a tendency to if they get one, they get them all.
And what was it? How are they bringing these characters into effect? How are they making them? I know there's a crossover between DC and Marvel.
Yeah, that was what that was. They had some kind of cosmic event causes the two universes to merge, and so they end up on one Earth. They're saying they were two separate Earths, and one was the Marvel Earth and one was the DC Earth. So now they're on the. It's all merged together, and then something happens I think in the third issue that causes them to become one thing, and everything melds. So the final part of that's supposed to come out next week, and find out how everything will get back to normal.
You know, looking at the comic books of today, I look at it most times from fold to fold, and I'm like, this is a big commercial. This is a movie going, and then we had some M&Ms in the back, and then Sega and Cocoa Pebbles. What do you see? And then on the back we have
basketball cards.
Yeah. What do you see as far as the future of comic books? Do you see it becoming just? You open it up and, hey, forget about the comic book, we're getting ready to talk about a movie. I mean, do you see that just really happening?
Well, I think that is an interesting thing in that in years past, you had ads for sea monkeys and, army men sets and things like that. And I think that's shown where bigger companies are more involved with the comics, and they see that they do reach maybe a bigger or more affluent audience than they did in the past.
You know what I think? I'm just kind of going out there, but the children who used to look at the comic books have grown up, and now they might be in these positions to I don't know, see the movies or whatever. And they're in the I don't know, the beer business, and they're in the movie business and the M&M business. So they're going like, well, I used to do this when I was a kid, so let me kind of get paid off of it. You know?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot more. You know, a lot of people that work on comics, have been around comics all their lives.
And just big kids, that's all.
Well, that's definitely why I got into this business. I didn't want to have a real job. I had a real job, and that didn't take
too much work.
That's right.
That's right. You got to enjoy what you're doing. And
well, that's the big thing. I enjoy that a lot. And you know, the other thing is that, you know, kids today have a frightening amount of money to spend. I mean, versus when we were kids. You know, so
you can see the difference. Back then, comics were a lot cheaper, so kids could buy them. 12 cents.
Oh yeah, and the things they advertised in there were, you know, 99 cents, and now they're advertising, you know, Sega games that are, you know, $60 and $70.
Right.
So the money is out there.
We were talking about condition earlier. What condition is this type of comic in right here?
That's what they call near mint. You know, the condition you want anything in is as close to it was the day it came off the line, or as soon as it came out. So
right.
You grade all comics on the same scale, whether they're 50 years old or they came out last week. You want them to be just as smooth and nice as
crisp and clean as possible. Like these two together, you can tell the difference.
Right. And there you can, you know, the Plastic Man comic that came out in the 40s, and of course this comic just came out a couple of months ago. But even then, you know, that's one of the things people always think, well, it's real old, it's worth a lot of money. Well, that's part of the equation, but that comic, there's many comics that came out in the last 5 years that are worth more than this one just because the condition is.
Okay, well, how do you preserve your comic books?
Most of the people keep them in plastic bags to keep moisture off of them, or bugs or anything like that. The main thing, just in general, that people want to do is keep them where they'll be dry and where they'll be away from heat and direct sunlight. Those are the big things that kill comics. Like you were talking about in the past, they were all made on newsprint. They weren't made to last. So everything deteriorates old comic books. New comics, they put them on that slick paper and everything, and they're a lot harder to, or they're not as susceptible to the heat and light as the new one, or the old ones are.
We were talking earlier, and I was just wondering if you want to share, what's the most rare comic that you have, or the most expensive one, or that you have had?
Right now, we've got a couple of comics that are like in the $600 or $700 range that are first appearances from the 60s of like the Silver Surfer or Ant-Man. In the past, we've had most of all the big comics. We've had the first appearance of Batman, which we sold to the doctor down in Houston, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was like about $28,000. The things, you know, we've had Superman #1. I don't think we've ever had an Action, which is the first
the Action
Superman.
comics.
But we've had most of the big ones at one time or another. At that time, we did a lot of comic conventions around the country, and we really were more active with the really old stuff then.
Okay, well, we got to take a quick break right now. We'll be right back with Mr. Chris Zapeda. Right. We'll be right back.
Great day for sailing. Ready, gang? When your daddy and you go to sail for the day, make sure the power lines are far away. When your daddy and you make the house look fine, don't raise ladders or antennas near power lines. Hey, this lightning bug doesn't raise his antenna near power lines. No way! You gotta stay away from power lines. You gotta stay away from power lines.
And practiced to become a musician. Later, I joined the Navy and became an officer and learned about discipline and teamwork and doing your best. Then playing pro ball, the dream of a lifetime. These are the things I love. These are my choices. But none of them would have come true if I hadn't made an important decision a long time ago. I don't do drugs. That's what's worked for me. Think about it.
Well, welcome back. We're here with Mr. Chris Zapeda from Excalibur Comics, Cards, and Gifts. And off the top of my head.
It just flows off your tongue.
Just flows off
I
my
was just noticing that. I mean, I'm not going to go there, guys. I just can't. Thank you.
It just takes time, I guess. I don't know. I'm just doing it today.
Okay.
You jump in, though. Jump in anytime.
I sure will.
Okay. You were talking that you had like a $22,000 comic, or the first appearance of Batman and things. How do you get a hold of those comics? Do you buy them yourself, or do you get them through distributors, or?
Well, yeah, all the old comics we buy either from other collectors or other stores, other people that trade in comics. Every so often, Grandma finds something in the attic and brings it down, and more often than not, it's all eaten up by bugs or destroyed or whatever. But every so often you run across things that way. But I think most people know comics are worth money, or old comics are worth money. And so
I think what I'll do right now is go get a comic book. I pass it down to my son. He'll pass it down to his son, and then it'll just go through the family, and then we can get a whole bunch of money. So I think I'll do that. Where's your shop? I think I'll go do that now.
Yeah, we're online right across from Bird High School. Well, that's the main thing with comics. A lot of people think that they're going to buy something today and it's going to be worth a lot of money in 6 months or something like that, which does happen, but that's a rarity. That's there again. Most of the things that are going to appreciate, it's going to appreciate over a good amount of time. These real old comics, they're 30, 40, 60 years old. Right. That's why they've stood the test of time. My advice to most people is, as far as collecting, is buy things that you like. If it goes up, then that's great. And if it doesn't, then you've still got something that you like.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I want to know, what is the hottest comic out right now? The hottest stories going out right now.
The hottest comic right now is an Image comic, probably, called Gen 13, that came out just a couple of years ago. And because of the art, primarily, I think that's what's made it a real popular title.
It looks a lot realistic. I'm looking at the.
Isn't this illustrated by Jim Lee?
Well, he was the creator of it, and then he had some other guys do it. This one actually is done by a guy named Adam Hughes. Who's,
my, they get very graphic on that. I mean, you can. What's the name of it? Go get Genlock. Whatever, Gen 13, whatever it is. Get that. I mean, they get very realistic.
Some of the artwork, the artwork itself.
Well, yeah, that's the big seller. Girls in tight costumes are always popular with teenage boys
Gen 13,
of all ages.
In other words, this is what they can buy if they can't buy the other magazines.
Well, that's working your way up, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
start off with Betty Boop, and then go
Donald
Gen 13.
Donald Duck, then Gen 13 is small.
Right.
A comic just as far as a special event that's been real popular, that sold out real quick, was this Action 720, which I think that came out in the news about Lois Lane breaking off the engagement with Superman.
Right.
So that had a lot of people coming in that weren't like normally buying comics, that were just interested in that.
Yeah, they were announcing it on the news, and I was like, whoa, Lois Lane dumped Superman. What's the big soup's going to do now?
Okay, so the story on television, does that kind of go with that? Because I remember, I don't know when, but I haven't really followed it, but I know Lois Lane was proposed to by Superman on the television show. So is this like a spring off of that?
Well, they've been doing the same kind of thing in the comics. They don't have exactly the same storylines running on the TV as they do in the comics. But yeah, it is kind of parallel to the
so on television,
the TV story.
You think she's going to break out the engagement?
I don't know. I think there's a good chance that they would. It's the same thing like with Superman dying. They've been engaged and fixing to get married 3 or 4 times, and so it's. Ever since the 60s, they kind of introduced soap opera to comics, and that's one of the things that's driven the stories.
Okay, I'm just really asking a question. Where did Superboy come from? He would have to come from Superman, right?
Well, originally the way they did Superboy was they figured Superman was such a good selling title, they kept trying to come up with different ways to put out something else with Superman in it. And so they thought, well, when he was growing up, he would have been Super too. So we'll go back in time and we'll do that.
Now, I was looking through something. I saw Super. Was it Super?
Oh, they had that Spider Boy there.
Spider Boy, yeah.
So what they did there was they've changed things. I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, they tried to do away with all those.
His genetic DNA patterns is crossed, and now he's Super Spider.
That's right. Well, that's what they made a clone of Superman, and that's who Superboy is. So they can have Superman and Superboy at the same time.
In the Reign of the Superman storyline after his death.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, when he died the last time, they decided they'd try and make a clone of him and to bring him back, and that was Superboy. But it's a tough place to go, but once you're there, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's frightening.
I've been in your store several times, and I notice you have not only comics, but you have the cards and a lot of figures and, I don't want to say toys, but collectible items in the store.
Yeah, well, it's toys.
Well, they were toys before, but now I consider them collectible items. What's the rarest one of those that you have?
Right now, we've got some Migos, which are little action figures, or back then they were dolls that are like I think they're like 8-inch tall or something like that. They have a little cloth.
I thought they were Mego, but
well, everybody says it differently.
Yeah.
That's I never.
You say potato.
I say potato.
But yeah, we've got a couple that are in the couple of $100, $300 or $400 range. They have little cloth uniforms, and they're like G.I. Joes. They're
Are they fully articulated? And
right.
Okay. I noticed I've seen some of like the Marvel characters and DC characters. And am I right saying you had some Star Trek ones too?
Yeah, they made Star Trek figures from the original TV show back then, like that. And then we've got little Star Wars figures and the bigger ones also.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. He's going here, everybody. He has on a Star Wars tie. He's going there, so prepare. Just follow him with this one.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go into Star Wars. I noticed that there's a big resurgence in Star Wars popularity now with the new trilogy about to come out. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'm buying lately is a comic adaptation of Timothy Zahn's first book that came out. Are those selling well? Are the whole series of Star Wars selling well? Or
oh yeah, Star Wars is a real big seller, and it's got popularity across the line. There's tons of kids that weren't even born when the original movies came out that love Star Wars and can quote it chapter and verse. I think somebody there with Lucas got the bright idea that this stuff is the tapes sell like crazy, and they're licensing them like mad. They're going to have a big tie-in with a new book that's coming out. They're going to do toys for a book. They've never done that in a comic.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
Store, yeah.
And I know they have a new Star Wars card game out. Like they had the Magic game card game come out, and there's a new Star Wars one. Can you know a little bit about that, or? Well,
it's a collectible card game, so they kind of get you on both fronts. You collect the cards, and you also need certain cards to be able to beat other players. So it's a great ploy.
Are y'all planning any tournaments maybe for these card games in your store?
Not anything right now. We've got a big sale going on right now, and we've been just backed up trying to get everything out for that.
Yeah, let's talk about your sale real quick. When does it run?
It's running this weekend through Sunday. It started yesterday, and it's one of those things we call it the everything sale because everything is on sale. If you offer enough money, the guy behind the register will leave with you.
Yeah, you can have this. I want it.
A lot of people don't know this, and I do because I used to buy real big volume. Do you still offer a discount to people if they buy like a large volume? I was put on a list at one point.
Oh yeah, we do subscriber lists for people so that things don't sell out before they come in, and they get discounts off their new comics and back issues.
Not the back issues though, do you?
Oh yeah, the back issues too now. We're out of control with the discount.
Okay. Say you have somebody like Mr. Street. I don't know if you collect comics or if you ever bought them.
I bought one once.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you where it is. I think it was something like the Gen 13. I looked at it in the store and I was like, hey, this is cool. She wearing a tight bikini or something.
Yeah.
I think I need to look at it. I was in college. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, that's okay, though. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like a new comic book collector or you're wanting to get into it, what would you suggest to somebody who wants to get into it? Or what kind of periodical or magazine would you have them read or talk to a person to talk to about it?
Well, certainly you can come down there and talk to us anytime about comics. That's what we do all day. We talk about
them.
We talk about comic books. Another good resource is a magazine called The Wizard that comes out. We sell it. It's on newsstands, and it has a price guide in it. But it also has a lot of good articles about comics that are coming out and movies and toys and things that are related to comics.
Is that something that comes out monthly, or?
Yeah, it comes out monthly. And
okay.
Do they update the price list? How many? Is it every month? Do they do it?
Yeah, every month they update.
I thought they did it like once every 6 months, but that shows how much I know. I'm still learning.
Oh yeah, they keep right on top of that.
Y'all talk for a minute. I'm looking for something real quick.
In fact, one of the interesting things about that is that's like one of the top 100 selling magazines in the country now.
Do the Muppets have a comic book?
They have been in comics before. They have had
something that I've saw.
But for some reason they don't have anything come out right now.
Really? I would figure they might because of the movies that they're having and all that, and that success that Miss Piggy's sharing with Kermit and all that. I was just wondering. That's
one of the kind of areas that are lesser explored or aren't exploited or whatever as in the past. They don't have a lot of comics for small kids anymore. I don't know if that's because of the prices or whatever.
Everything's rated PG-12 or 13 or something.
Right. I just want to share this with everybody. This is my favorite part, where people send in their figures, homemade figures.
Yeah, they'll take other toys and cut them up and remake them into their.
I can take G.I. Joe's arm and put it on Spider-Man's body and get somebody's head from somewhere else.
Right.
That's something.
And do you know if they pick like some of their sculptors for the new figures from people like who do these, or?
I don't know if they. I think that's probably one of the reasons that some of the people do that is to get known by the companies that put out those toys.
Yeah, that's just me though.
What you got? Yeah, someone makes a Spider Bart.
Yeah, Spider Bart.
Okay. No, thank you. Shadow Cat.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the more popular things too. Is that they typically don't make as many female figures, so the guys are always trying to make their favorite female characters, make figures out of Barbies and things.
Yeah.
Mysterio. What, they put a marble on this guy's head? I wish you all could see this. I don't know if y'all can get this or not, but it's a guy in green, and he has a marble on his head. He honestly does have a marble on his head.
What could be more mysterious?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, there it is.
That guy right there.
But that's what he is in the comic book. He just has a big bowl on his head.
Yeah, he's a special effects man from some TV show or something. I can't remember. He hates Spider-Man.
Man.
Oh, my goodness. Comic books.
So.
Gotta love them.
But this is what you would suggest to somebody if they wanted to get into it.
Yeah, that'll tell you some about the collecting aspect, and it'll tell you about some of the things that other collectors are excited about or new projects that are coming out. You know, the main thing is to go down and typically anything that you're interested in, there's comics that relate to that. As far as, you were talking about Star Wars. There are a lot of different Star Wars and other media-related, Terminator, Star Trek, those kind of things. Okay.
Well, it's nice to talk to you, Mr. Zapeda, and we'd like to have you come back on the show after your sale.
Okay.
Remember, everybody go to the sale. He's got it 30 to 50%, 30 to 50% off everything?
10 to 50% off.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Well, then, we'll talk to you again on Monday, and see you later, Street.
You all have a good weekend. Peace.
All right.